Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this council meeting. This is being live streamed on the YouTube channel, just to remind people. There are currently no apologies. Are there any? We're all here, aren't we? Confirmation of the agenda. Would somebody like to move that the addition of the late paper, consideration of decision-making structure? Kevin. Move Kevin, second. Kate. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. All members, you're to be reminded, need to stand aside from decision-making when a conflict arises between your role as an elected representative and any private or other external interest you might have. Confirming the minutes of the inaugural council meeting of 29 October as a true and accurate record. Do I have a mover? Councillor Wilson, seconded Councillor Somerville. All those in favour?
Aye.
On the contrary, carried. Matters for consideration. 6.1 on your agenda. To consider and adopt a governance structure for the Otago Regional Council for the 2025-2028 triennium. You will have read the paper provided to us. To open. Yes.
Thanks, Chair. So this paper's been prepared following discussions with the Chair and Deputy Chair to allow Council to consider a governance structure for this triennium. So that is laid out in the report and proposes the report has a number of recommendations proposing a governance model of portfolio areas, proposing portfolio leads as attached. It also includes audit and risk with membership attached, and just confirming that the recommendation to appoint Andrew Douglas to a further 1-year term, he has been notified of that and is happy to fulfil that role. So if there were any questions around whether he knows, he does. I have spoken to him, so it won't come as a surprise. So that is there for your consideration as well. And noting that the plan at a staff level is for the end of November meeting to bring back a further report, which subject to any decisions made today would include terms of reference, but will also include the nominations that the council needs to make to a variety of groups and joint committees that need to be populated by councillors. So we would be proposing to bring those all back at the end of November, subject to any decisions that are made as part of this paper today.
Councillor Malcolm.
Yes, Richard. If there was a meeting that required an appointment, and I'm just thinking of, I think there's a wallaby eradication meeting, I think on the 17th or 18th of this month. So if there was an appointment before those were formalised, how would you envisage we could handle that?
Yeah, so if we have matters come up that require a council or governance representative, and there may be a few in November, I suspect there won't be a large number. My view is that I would liaise with the Chair and Deputy Chair to identify who would be the most appropriate person. We would brief that person in, staff would, and ensure they were prepared for that meeting. That could then be confirmed or modified. There's no issue to brief someone else at a later date, and they would be fine to attend those meetings and be the nominated representative of council, and that would effectively be formally confirmed at that November in the November paper. So in my mind, it doesn't need a formal delegation or process. I think, we understand that governance is required to represent councillors at a number of meetings. I know of a few in November, but not a significant number, and I think we can manage that process for the month, and then ensure all of those roles are appropriately filled at that end of November meeting.
Thank you.
Right, I think this should have been done in the other order, but I would like to move from the chair the recommendation in 6.1. Have I seconded?
On the second.
Seconded by councillor Laws.
Could we still have questions?
Yes. I just thought that we needed something before the questions, but hey,
I think process perspective, then if we take that as the foreshadowed motion that would be moved by the chair and seconded by councillor Laws and enable the questions to occur and then move that formally and move into debate. So that enables the questions.
councillor Robertson, did you have a question?
I was mainly asking about the process, but, I'm sharing a mic with somebody today, sorry. Thanks. Thanks. I'm just first of all wanting to know how the council meeting would work, whether or not the portfolio lead and what their role would be at the council meeting, and whether the council chair will chair all matters, and then also would like to know around mana whenua representation on the council, not the council, but within decision making, and the fact that we have had for quite a few trienniums now involvement around the council table at committees, so where that role would be or how that would work. I've probably got others, so I'll let others ask questions. Thanks.
My anticipation is that the council meeting would be chaired by myself or Kevin as is required, that the portfolio leads would be leading discussion around the issues that are raised, and when it requires votes or things that require proper formal chair processes, then whoever's in the chair will be fulfilling those requirements, but that the discussion about a topic or a foreshadowed motion would be led by the portfolio leads and the staff in combination, as we often have reports from the staff, and that conversation is led by the staff. To answer the mana whenua question, I have asked for information about everywhere that mana whenua touches on our organisation, so it's better for myself to understand that, and anyone else who isn't sure, and presumably the new people don't know where those things are. So any places that we do touch on mana whenua, for us to understand with a portfolio model what currently is happening and what would not be happening if we move to a portfolio model instead of a subcommittee model. The subcommittees have had decisions which include mana whenua at the table in some subcommittees in the past. So it's that influence that we need to find a way to help make sure with our special relationship with mana whenua that we allow them to have their voice and their views heard at our table, we want to make sure that we follow the law and our strategies and our rules. And more importantly, in some respects, to ensure that the relationship we have with Mana Whenua is properly respected.
Just a
And-
point of clarification on that, on the committees, we, it didn't have, Mana Whenua making decisions because they weren't decision-making committees.
Yes, they were. They moved resolutions.
I understand they move resolutions which are then brought back to the council table, but that doesn't mean that those aren't resolutions that they make round that table. And we also, they're not decisions of council, but they are subcommittee decisions, and I don't know totally whether inevitably, but I've looked through a lot of council papers and I haven't found one where council hasn't picked up that subcommittee resolution, decision, how you want to call it, and confirmed it at the council table. So that's the context of my loose description of that as a decision. Councillor Laws.
Well, I'd just like to clarify that council rubber stamped every committee resolution at the last council. It was never double debated around here. And it wasn't a subcommittee, it was a committee of council appointed by the last triennium. The policy discussion or the particular activity discussion and the resolutions would be determined at the committee, and all they would do is simply get signed off by the council at the end. The theory of double debate was there, but the reality was that council committees made resolutions, they were moved, seconded, debated, and then brought to the council for formal endorsement. I'm struggling, Richard, to remember any council recommendation, perhaps you could remember, from any council committee over the last 3 years that was overturned by the
I was
council.
just going to jump in and say, I assume that was your question.
Mm.
Yeah. I can't recall any that were overturned and overturned between the recommendation made by committee. I would stand to be corrected because I wouldn't have been at every meeting, but I can't recall any that were overturned from the recommendation made at committee and then subsequently minutes and therefore decisions endorsed at full council.
Councillor Wilson.
I think, thank you for your answers about Mana Whenua. I think it is really important that we do endorse continuing a good and robust relationship with them. My question for you is, if we go down the line of the portfolios and we get a report on 26, where is the opportunity for Mana Whenua in your mind to have more feedback about what that looks like and what we propose? And the other part of that is it potentially that we may have more meetings with them as mana to mana and less input and a different structure in the portfolio where there may be an iwi leave in appropriate ones?
Once we understand where iwi and us currently interact, my anticipation is that we would then be in a position to look at if the portfolio structure is in place at that stage, where we imagine Mana Whenua would fit in with our structure, and we would then be in a position to talk through mana to mana. And it may be that what they come back with is more regular meetings, or for them to tell us what they might like in a way of input, and that we would be ready to then to say what from our point of view we think would enhance our relationship. So both to have a proper, respectful and ongoing dialogue, sometimes maybe meetings and sometimes not necessarily formal mana to mana meetings. But it's really important to us around this table, I think, that we enhance and grow the special relationship we have with mana whenua, and that we keep talking about our processes and how they want to interact with them, and our ideas about what we need from them to help us understand what works for them and what they need to be telling us about. And I've already talked briefly yesterday at the Marae about the possibility of more written communications, reports, whatever, from mana whenua, when not all the way through every time we speak, because we should be constantly interacting. But when it comes to the Māori end of something that they care particularly about, and when we've talked things through and where we've got to, that we have things in writing so that we fully and properly understand what they are saying and what their views are, and if there's something contentious, why they think what they think, or whatever they want to tell us, so as that we have things that we not only can understand ourselves, because we work on, as you can see from sometimes 400 pages of agenda items and things, we work on written reports and things, and mana whenua has a much better attachment to an oral tradition than we have. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to see things around our table and say, we now understand. We can then ask iwi, what did you mean by paragraph 7 in that, or whatever? And so if we can fully understand what it is that iwi wants to say to us, and that we, the community, can also understand what information we had available and what we were considering when we were making our decisions.
And that went beyond where my question was.
Sorry.
That's fine. No. Well, I think we also heard that they weren't necessarily comfortable with putting everything in writing. That's still a debate to be resolved through those communications. The problem is with the recommendations, and it's not a problem, it's understanding that if this is passed today, at what point, it's not necessarily fixed for the whole term, I think, is what we're saying. And I'm probably more concerned about noting 6 is notes more detailed terms of reference for each portfolio area, the role of portfolio leads, whether we should be incorporating something in there about mana whenua incorporation into the process. And it may not happen on the 26th of November, but it will be a work in progress through mana to mana to get to how they get involved. And it seems to be missing in the actual resolutions, and that's where I'm just wondering, is that where you would see it happening, or because I think it is important to them that we have it referenced somewhere.
I had imagined that until we get further down the track of understanding where we all are with each other, that we couldn't be usefully trying to talk to mana whenua about slotting them into here, although we've already had tentative thoughts about whether somewhere in the portfolio lead process there might be a space there for mana whenua, but I don't think we can look to that in the meantime. The best I think we could do would be to, if you wanted to, Councillor Wilson, add to that recommendation that we will, when we have sorted our own house out, talk to, so we're formally saying consult with, listen to was the words I really wanted to consult with mana whenua about how they would prefer to engage or participate. So feel free to.
I might defer to the CE on that one.
I'll keep going. I'll
Yeah.
just work this.
Yes, so I don't think we want to. I don't think we're in a position to commit to how that would work at this stage and what it would have. I think it's too soon. Councillor Somerville.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I had some questions about, well, carrying on from paragraph 12, which was about that mana whenua representation at governance level, but more specifically paragraph 28, which refers to Te Mahi Rauika, the council's significance and engagement policy. Now that policy notes council staff will consider each issue, proposal, decision or matter before them to determine the degree of significance attached to it. Has that been done with this proposal?
Yes.
And what was the conclusion that was reached?
The conclusion is that we can find a way to, with a portfolio structure, to provide useful and appropriate input from mana whenua.
I don't think that can be an answer to that question, because I believe the question is about at what point we do need to engage with mana whenua about an issue. And I guess that's what I'm asking. How has it been decided? Where do we need to engage
Look, so
on this one?
my advice on that would be that in terms of the significance of a decision as in the statutory requirement to consult, this wouldn't meet that test. However, there are commitments made in that He Mahi Rauika document, which are a guide for the council in terms of how you have committed through that, you know, acknowledging the previous, or might have been two councils, was it, that signed off that document, does set out the commitments that have been made to engage, consult, discuss decisions of significance, and also sets out how we as a council intend to have mana whenua involved in decisions. So from a pure statutory test around significance, the advice is that it would not trigger a full need to consult. There are other considerations for council in terms of the commitments made through that document.
Right. So thank you, Richard. And so those other considerations, I guess, is that leading us to say, yes, this is something we need to consult on with mana whenua, because this is a decision that clearly does affect them.
My advice is that based on those commitments, you do need to have those discussions.
Right.
Yes.
Have we had them yet?
I don't know whether our CE was referring to we need to have those discussions before we are allowed around our table to change this structure. Would you like to comment?
Oh, look, that's really a decision for the table to make. That's not it's not an operational matter to advise you, you know, on your intent to give effect to what's in that document. It's a decision that the table needs to make. The conversation started yesterday at the Hui at Otako, and this table will need to determine how you choose to move forward with that process.
And I guess my view, and I could express it as a question, but my view is that having one meeting with mana whenua the day before we are due to make a decision is not meaningful engagement. And nor is it to say we'll engage with them after we have made the decision.
If that was expressed as a question, I will attempt to answer it as a question, which is that I don't believe that we need to engage with mana whenua before we make this decision of our structure around this table.
Yeah.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Andrew,
Thank you. Recommendation 6, I think, is really, really important, understanding how the terms of reference will scope out. how we operate as portfolio chairs, which I agree in principle. So I'm just wondering, the question is, Madam Chair, how do you imagine we will work up the terms of reference between now and the 26th? Will it come as a prepared document via the CE, or would you imagine some form of councillor workshop? Because the views obviously vary around the table from one end of the spectrum to the other, and I think that a workshop may be a really, really good idea, but it's a question for you.
There is a draft terms of reference that has been circulated. What I imagine is that we can see whether it's likely that that's going to fall into place reasonably easily for those terms of reference. If we need to have get together of some sort before the 26th to put those terms of reference into place, then we need to have a look at that. I'm not sure whether a workshop is quite the way of doing that. We could have brought it today in a slightly more formed form than we have it, but there will be other extra bits. And we had, for instance, the proposal is for having some councillors with special interest in some areas of portfolios that they are not portfolio leads in, and that those special interest people will slot in to the portfolio lead process for that particular area that they have an interest in. So as that not generally as part of the portfolio leads, but if it's a limited area, then they will be with the portfolio leads and involved with that particular area, just as a for example. And that may be the way in which we can incorporate some mana whenua input, for example. So it's a question of whether we try and do, I think it would be useful probably to do the terms of reference in a way that allows us to be open to how mana whenua may fit into that, but not to have that discussion before we do the terms of reference, because that's for a further down the track process that we won't be able to do that whole thing before 26th of November, I don't think, whereas we do need the terms of reference to get in there. And it may be that once we have portfolio leads, if this paper is approved, that we then can have a more direct, thoughtful think about how the roles fit in. Once you can say, okay, we're doing this, what, do we like the draft we've got? Do we want to add things to it? Knowing that it might well be a move and feast, but it may well be tweaked over time as to what happens with those.
Just to off some, I guess, process, Andrew, in terms of that. So the intention is that staff would prepare a report on the advice of, again, the discussions with the chair and deputy chair, what's been circulated. I guess I'd probably more describe that as expectations for the role of portfolio lead as opposed to terms of reference. I don't think we anticipate the terms of reference will include a lot more detail around how this function will operate. We will respond to requests from the table in terms of whether that's workshopped, whether it's written. We can accommodate whatever in that sense, but the view would be that draft would come back to 26 following whatever discussions happen between now and then. But those portfolio lead expectations, which were really a series of bullet points, were just to, I think, to give an indication of the expectations of those roles, but the terms of reference would need to be more formal and flesh out exactly what's expected under the structure.
Councillor Malcolm.
Thank you, Chair. Just checking a couple of intents going forward. We were elected, I think it was the 29th of October, and formally sworn in, and we've had, I think, 3 working days before we headed down to the marae to a pre-arranged meeting with Mana Whenua, and we are now incorporating a new system into our operation. So clearly, to me, there hasn't been time to consult, and prior to the 29th, none of us would have had the appropriate delegation, power or authority to consult with Mana Whenua. However, we consulted yesterday. So I just wonder, what is the intent of the chair to communicate our decision of today, whatever that may be, and also to communicate should the portfolio system take place, what is the chair's intent to communicate that back to Mana Whenua so they understand the process that we are about to go through?
My intention would be that the chair and deputy chair, namely myself and yourself, Councillor Malcolm, would communicate with both Mr. Tipper and Mr. and Edward, Alison, as to, and with the view of always keeping in touch with Mana Whenua about what we're doing, would be for the 2 of us to communicate what we've done today and where we're going and where they would next, what part of the process they would next be expecting to hear from us, and while we move through that process, any input they would like to have or that we can see that they could be interested in, but for us to absolutely be keeping them in touch all of the way.
Thank you.
Mr. Laws.
Um,
Councillor Laws.
I've got a question, and it is related to staff advice on this matter. Can you explain to me, please, Richard, why this is regarded in clause 28? It says here, He Mahi Roarika speaks to ORC's commitment to partner with Mana Whenua and make Mataranga Kaitahu an integral part of our decision making. I've looked through He Mahi Roarika and I'm struggling to see where it says that we're making Mataranga Kaitahu an integral part of our decision making.
There was me, Councillor.
Because that's moved well beyond renovation.
So page 6, under engagement with Mana Whenua, first sentence, our commitment is to partner with Mana Whenua and make Mataranga Kaitahu an integral part of our decision making. So
Where does it
advice-
say that?
page.
Oh, I see. So it's you've put it at the top, so it's not in the table. Okay.
So really the paragraph 28 is just a direct, we're just pulling directly from that that document.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then the next question runs, if I mean, you know, my objected to this and voted against it, so you'll be aware of the background to this, and we need to really overhaul this, in my view, as quickly as possible. But can I ask the obvious question, and that is, if the council decides to change, as it is today, its governance structure, is there anything in this that gives Mana Whenua a veto?
There's no mechanism I'm aware of.
Okay. So the idea is, so when we talk about consultation, which is just another word for doing what you want to do anyhow, but you just tick a few boxes as you go along, which is how the ORC usually consults, then I imagine in this particular case, consultation remains is a conversation that we would have with iwi representatives, yeah?
So as I said at the start, how this council chooses to give effect to the commitments in the document are up to you. I'm not here to
Yeah,
tell you
okay,
how you
that's
do
good.
that.
I just wanted to clarify that too. Thank you.
Councillor Robertson.
Thank you. Just wondering, because it's good to be able to fully understand the benefits of change and to be open to it. That on just whether or not under paragraph 11, where councillors had reflected on the structure that we had in the last triennium, and that the co-chairs model, which did give a flat structure, and also it didn't have decision making. They were referred to the council, so it was at times double handled. But recommendation there that delegations could be considered for that model. What the benefits of this model would be above that model, and just how using the whole team would be enhanced, and what would be the benefits for good governance principles. Thanks.
The 11 says the councillors provided the following reflections and directed that these be shared with the incoming council. Those reflections have been shared with the incoming council. They are in this paper.
Yep.
People can make of that round the table what they will.
My question is, so what would be the benefits above the co-chair model of the profile model? Portfolio model. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
They're different models and they have different ways of the councils expressing their interest in different areas. The councillors are likely to have a more in-depth understanding of the area that they have as portfolios. If there's interaction between the community and the councillors and through the councillors with the staff, the portfolio model allows for concerns and observations and other things that the community wants to bring to us to be funneled through the portfolio leads, which instead of a dozen of us all communicating with the staff and saying, one of my constituents has this sort of problem or whatever it is, the portfolio leads can collect whatever they are together and realise that instead of 12 people sending an email to a staff member saying, one of my constituents has a problem with like a resource consent or whatever it is, that portfolio, those portfolio leads will know that there's actually a dozen problems with resource consents, and they can be collected in a much more helpful way for the community to look through, and that we will understand better. Those councillors will be responsible for bringing things back to the council table and the rest of us. So I think it changes the responsibility that councillors have, and they have for a particular area, and then to be listening to those portfolio leads as they bring back things to the council table. That also allows the general managers to form a relationship with the portfolio leads that they can as, they could as subcommittee chairs, but not in the same sort of way. I don't believe that it wasn't set up so they necessarily have the same sort of interest in those areas. Just as, for example, a non-contentious sort of thing, finance. We will be expecting the portfolio leads in finance to be all over finance and to understand what's going on. We expect to be able to ask those people what's going on about some things, and they and the staff between them will help tell us things. But the subcommittee model doesn't necessarily require councillors to be a conduit for and taking a proper interest in that. You can sit as finance chair and just receive papers and then chair a finance committee meeting, which is, after all, a historical meeting on the whole, because it just tells you what has happened in the past. And so that there's no obligation on chairs to get in amongst it.
I think, could you consider then whether that might be an attitude or relationships or expectations of terms of reference issue for the co-chairs versus the portfolio leads model, because they're both the same, I think, and you could have the same issue with either of them that you've described there. I've seen in this council where exactly what you've described is what the co-chairs have done, and then they have the added expectation of then doing all of that. Everyone funnels the emails, the expectations through that lead, because their attitude is that they have the hold the money and they need to do that. They need to get on really well with staff. They need to work with community, and then they chair their meeting as well. And it all comes together. Is that an attitude, relationships, terms of reference, or a completely separate thing?
When push comes to shove, I believe that this model will work better, and I am hoping for support around the table for the portfolio model.
And Chair.
Councillor Kelleher.
Sorry, simple question. For each of the portfolios, the leads identified, do you see them as being acting jointly? Or do you see them as a sort of chair, deputy chair type structure?
I see them in this case as acting jointly, but if the table prefers them to be lead and deputy, then.
Thank you.
Councillor Laws.
We've actually got an expert sitting at the table opposite me, Councillor Neil Gillespie, who has been sitting in a council that practices this very model. Neil, with your indulgence, can you, so you have the portfolio lead as it works at Central Otago District Council, so does Waitaki, they have the same concept as well. A number of territorial authorities do throughout New Zealand. Can you practically explain to us, Neil, how this works in operation, and particularly the lead and deputy at the CODC?
On the basis, I assume that's an order. I can. So CODC adopted that, I can't remember exactly when, where the different functions of the organisation were set up in the portfolios. A lead and a deputy was put in place. What would happen is that there'd be a pre-agenda meeting with the lead and deputy of that particular portfolio with the agenda items that are going to go to the council meeting. And the council, having previously had a committee structure where the committee had delegations, made for a longer and more or less structured day, if you like, at the time of the change being made. Then what happened with the portfolios coming in, we go to a council meeting, the portfolio lead would lead the report at the council meeting to the extent of taking the proposed resolution to be made and as the chair effectively for that part of the meeting, and then as the agenda items work through, it would shift to another portfolio. They will group together, and that would work all the way through until you got to the stuff that only council could do, and the mayor would chair that part of the meeting. We didn't bother shifting chairs. We stayed where we were and did it. So yeah, effectively, the mayor didn't chair everything, and we didn't have the committee structure where those committees had delegations to do things. All I can say is that it seemed to work pretty well, but the reality is that I look at what happens in this council and it's quite different. So I would expect it should be able to work, but the other key thing was that there was a lead, and the lead did the lead. The deputy was the deputy if the lead wasn't there, and sometimes might have been involved more directly if there was a particular item that they might have had some information or knowledge about that was helpful to them. So that's how that worked in that case.
So on the particular agenda item, Neil, the lead and the deputy would convoke with the appropriate staff member to work out how that particular item and recommendation, I guess, was going to be presented to your council?
Well, the pre-agenda meeting where the report was discussed, and if there was anything contentious to work through, or not contentious, it's the wrong word, more making sure that we were aware of what was coming. To be fair, did it involve a lot of involvement, direct involvement of the lead and deputy lead? No. And only if during the discussion that was taking place on the agenda item, there might be some guidance provided, is effectively the staff's report, and the lead just simply chaired that part of the meeting to take it through.
And you also changed your council meetings, I think, from 6 weekly to monthly. Can you explain that too, please?
Yeah, what was happening with 6 weekly meetings, it was getting awkward to fit back into the community board structure set up as well, with how that worked, and also for the staff to be able to bring stuff in a timely manner. Too often we found 6 weeks was too long between drinks, and so we went to 4 weekly, and that worked much better.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Hanley.
I was actually just after a bit more detail from Neil, if possible, just with regards, procedurally in a meeting is one part, but one of the proposals, or one of the aspects that I'm most interested about with the portfolio model is that connection with the community and getting relevant information and making sure decisions that come through, you've got full information that does come through. So do you see an advantage in terms of that connection with community and with the key staff member in the organisation with that portfolio that was better or worse than the committee setup? Sorry, put you on the spot, mate.
Good question. I think the answer would be yes, but also I think you've got to look at the situation we're dealing with in Central Otago, which is quite ward-based, much smaller, community connections, much easier as well. So you had people sitting around a table who, because of the ward structure, had a pretty good idea of what was happening in the patch. The organisation here is quite a different beast in that respect, so it's a bit harder for that to actually happen. But yeah, certainly and also through the community board structure, where you had 3 of your councillors from the Cromwell ward sitting on the Cromwell community board, so that connection was done through that. So it suited that particular structure, and I'm not quite sure you can take it all from there and put it into here, in my view.
Councillor Wilson.
So, okay, probably a question, I think possibly of Neil, but I envisage that, should I be fortunate enough to be on the Integrated Catchment Management or CAT project, for Catlins Game, and I saw something that I had a concern with or whatever, that role would sort of sit out on a different column underneath as a interest group that would feed into the, I would take those matters up with Andrew and Robbie as leads for environmental delivery, and that is the conduit. So there's sort of, all those other things feed in on from the, as the 3rd or 4th column potentially. And that is, I just want to get that clarification That's both what you and possibly Richard see has been happening.
Yes, that's what we see as happening, that they do their own business internally, those groups, and then when they bring it back, they bring it back through the portfolio leads.
Too technical minutiae detail, but could be quite large. The land and water plan presumably would be under policy and planning, or as in resource management reform, or not. It's just not there, and we should possibly clarify that. And the other one is that audit and risk has usually had the chair as an ex officio member, so can vote. And I presume that that's another one that should be under there. This is a correction. Sorry, coming in with late details. I should have thought about this earlier, but slow on this.
Yes, the audit and risk one was just because we sort of thought ex officio, the chair ends up on it.
Yes,
Anyway, but
it should be.
yeah, it should be in there.
Chairperson's there.
Oh, chairperson, so is it ex, no, sorry, I was looking for the name, but is it ex officio or is it as chairperson?
So I understood it was, it's been put forward as a full member,
Okay,
but that was our understanding at staff level.
okay.
And the other part of your question, the land and water plan fits in with the planning,
And policy and planning.
policy and planning.
Yeah, just wanted, air and coastal in there.
Assuming that the whole Resource Management Act doesn't turn into something that where it says it's going to be in the library functions.
No, and it is just a matter, it says includes, and I get all of that, but I suppose,
Yeah, look, that'll be fleshed out in
Yeah.
the terms of reference, and
Yeah.
and essentially it is resource management and whatever form that takes in the future.
yeah, thank you.
Including obviously the response this council will have to make to
Reform.
the select committee process.
You want to have a question yourself or a?
There we go, yeah.
Yeah, good on you.
A bit more comfortable. I've looked at the agenda paper that went to the 2022 meeting to set up the committees, and noting in there that there was, I guess, the terms of reference have been developed to clearly describe the areas of responsibility for the committees, and that included the mana whenua representation as well. I also have read the minutes from that meeting, and I know that there was some concerns about the mana whenua representatives, but it came through and developed into what it is. So I can't help but wonder if the issue that we're facing here is one of there's some unknowns here that we're at. And so my question really comes around to saying is there an issue here with some uncertainty about what it might look like, and have we done enough to actually nail it down? Because when I look at that 2022 report, it seemed to be pretty clear about what's happening. And I do note that we should think about delegations. I think it was part of it as well. I'm just wondering whether here we've got that issue where there's a principle that we're talking about perhaps, and we need to flesh that principle out to say, here goes what actually we'll do and how it will run. And those questions that I've heard asked would be answered. I heard you, Madam Chair, respond to the fact that the chair would actually then probably take the resolution part of it, which I would suggest is going to be clumsy and awkward. And the natural progression would be for the person that's led it all the way through would take it to its conclusion. So that's just, so there's a couple of questions in there about how that might work. I just wonder if we are just lacking some detail to actually make the best informed decision today.
I don't think we're lacking detail. I think, to be blunt, we had a previous council wanting to continue to take something or to take something in a particular direction. And this council may be of a mind to take it in a new direction. And this is not a continuation of the previous council. This is a new council, and decisions made here don't need to follow on from suggestions that a previous council make. They may well do, and often they would, but they don't need to. And we don't need to, apart from being referred by the previous council to things to consider. We don't need to do what previous people do, and in fact, of course, the previous council doesn't bind a subsequent council, which if it did, of course, there wouldn't be any point to us, because we'd look back to whenever the regional council started and just make no decisions after that, because they've all been decided. And so here we are.
I don't think that's the question.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't suggesting that for a moment. You're quite right with what you said about what we should be looking at, what's suitable for this council going forward. My question was saying, have we got enough information here today to make that call, to make that change, or to, make a change, to implement a new way of doing things? And I just wonder whether that we do. There seems to be some unanswered questions, particularly about the mana whenua representation.
We can't answer the mana whenua representation without making this change if we make it today. So it's a chicken and egg sort of thing. We can't consult mana whenua about what to do subsequent to the change until we've made a change. Consulting mana whenua about whether we make the change at all is saying that, in my view, is saying that this table cannot make this decision, and it quite clearly can. It is whether we have the will to or not. I don't think we're short of information. I think this is a reasonably experienced council on the whole, and I think the new people are probably, well, experienced new people as well. But if I was hearing around the table that the people who haven't been on a council before feel that they haven't got enough information, then I would want to help them understand more. But I think the table is essentially understanding of what this proposal is and what it will mean. Councillor Malcolm.
You're just reflecting on Councillor Gillespie's comments on the 20, and I have an immediate question on that meeting of the 22nd where the structures were put forward. Were they not a rollover of an existing structure, which made it very simple for that process to happen? And also, any new councillor that came in at that particular time would certainly still have the trepidation of how the committee, even that committee system which was in place, worked.
So the principles for the structure were similar to the previous triennium.
Recommendations, what I read was the recommendation was the new committee structure.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, which is
New for that term.
New for that triennium. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, absolutely got what was wanted. Yeah.
Councillor Somerville.
Thank you. On another matter, just a process question about the membership of the Audit and Risk Committee. I guess I'm hoping to propose that Councillor Robertson be added to that committee. What is the best way to do that? That's about recommendation 4.
You'd move an amendment.
I'm happy with that as an amendment.
You'd move an amendment.
An amendment,
Ellen.
right, at the point that
that comes up.
recommendation is to be taken. Yeah, okay, we'll signal that when we get to that one. I'll do that. Thanks.
All councillors are entitled, apart from that, to come to Audit and Risk, and I encourage you to come along to Audit and Risk. I can't say it's a fascinating read, but I do say that it's a very important part of our processes, and the better we understand Audit and Risk, the better each of us councillors can do our job. So I encourage all councillors to come whenever possible to the Audit and Risk meeting.
Can I just ask one question on that, and very quickly, because we've spent an hour on this, so it'd be nice to get into the debate. But Recommendation 5 is to appoint Andrew Douglas as the co-chair of audit.
Yes.
Can I ask why he wouldn't be the chair of audit? And I'll explain the reason for the question. Because it would seem to me that any other councillor around here has a slightly different conflict of interest if they are the co-chair. I mean, I know they're going to be representing the council, but the whole point is having somebody who's independent. And in that role, they would be compromised, I would have thought, in that independence by having a co-chair looking over their shoulder. When we really want that independence, it's the reason why we're appointing them to that role. And I just might point out that I'm not aware of any other council in New Zealand, and I'm sure Richard will be able to help me out here, in which has a co-chair of the audit office. Of all ones I've looked at, they have a chair, and it's the independent member who usually does so.
So I can't help because I'm not an expert on
I didn't think you
council
would.
audit and risk committees. I've got
I would
other
have
things to
been
pull up my
embarrassed
spare
if
time.
I had found it.
So this is, I guess this is one where we have taken direction from the chair and deputy and
Yeah.
effectively carried over the
Yeah.
last structure. But as we have just discussed with the addition of councillor Robertson into the motion, there is the opportunity, probably a discussion, you know, with your chair and deputy chair if that was to be
Sure.
amended.
Okay, thanks, Richard.
I can speak to that, or councillor Malcolm can. I encouraged that joint chairmanship when I was last but one on. And the reason for it is that people don't necessarily understand that that the role of an auditor is to go through a checklist and satisfy themselves that particular things have happened or that processes are in place for particular audit functions. People think, for example, when something goes wrong financially, how come the auditor didn't pick it up? And how come the auditor didn't pick it up was because it wasn't on their list of things that they were auditing. They go through a process of what they're auditing, and they are reporting back and auditing against that process. As an additional input, to have the councillor as a co-chair means that you've got the councillor with an in-depth knowledge of what's been happening around the table, alongside somebody who has a understanding of an obligation about how strict audit processes should be, so that that councillor can say, well, beyond that audit process of sort of box ticking, there's this issue in our council at this time. So it enhances to me the roles of to put in co-chairs enhances the Audit and Risk Committee to me.
Okay, and the other question I've got, the list that you circulated to us, Hilary, prior to this particular paper being presented, included a number of special interest appointments. So, for example, Chanel was going to be special interest on submissions. I was responsible for a lakes plan. Councillor Somerville, I see, for hazards and climate change. That's not included in here, or is it? Have I missed something?
No, it isn't, and it's intended to be part of the coming back further list of council appointments, joint committees and things to
So that will go
to
to
come back to
the
the-
Cromwell Council meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at that stage, we will have the list of all the things we need to engage in the way of committees and things, but with the intention and the more detailed terms of reference would also encapsulate how those special interests would interact with the portfolios.
Right.
So, and those that I've suggested in emails and things, that those might be the ones you just read out would be potential appropriate places for special interests, and that there may be other ones. Those were just a sort of beginning, so that between now and the 26th, the councillors would like to come back to Kevin and I to add things to it on top of the ones we've already suggested, and to figure out how to incorporate those into these. So it allows, I guess, people who have an interest in something, but it isn't a whole portfolio, because the portfolios are set up to mirror the general manager's areas. But if it's a area within that, but somebody has a special interest in it, it's an acknowledgement of how they would interact with it. For example, pest management and Gary, we might want to not just say he can just go and talk to the portfolio leads about that. We might want to say Gary's donkey deep and having to be responsible for, dealing with rabbits and wallabies and things, because he's got that special interest. So we expect him to be partly responsible about that area of somebody else's portfolio.
So you're not intending that those people then lead that discussion if that particular item comes
So
before
can
council?
I offer, so our advice was not to include those in this paper, because the first decision is the principle of portfolios. That is the decision that needs to be made. There is a whole lot of clarity around how special interest would need to operate, so I can give clarity to staff around expectations for communication with councillors. We understand there are a number of councillors that will have a number of interests that span multiple portfolios, and it'll be really important to be clear about how that works. So we felt that the terms of reference was the appropriate place to capture that, and that would be that paper coming to the Cromwell meeting. That was the advice we gave.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Just want to get a handle on the process in terms of my understanding of how things will pan out should we adopt the things here. So the terms of reference will be fleshed out by staff with or without a workshop.
So that's for we will take guidance from the table as to whether it's a workshop or whether it's written feedback. We'll funnel it through the chair and deputy chair. There's nothing set at the moment, but that's really a decision that you need to.
So if we wanted to include the process of those terms of reference being developed, is that today the day to propose that in terms of the process?
I don't think you need a motion on that. I think that you need to discuss and get agreement, because in order for those, if we were to present that paper back at the end of the month, my expectation is that in order for you all to be aware of what's coming and be satisfied, there would have been some mechanism for you to be involved, but it doesn't need a motion to make that happen.
Okay, thank you, just want to understand.
So just to clarify that then, Richard, these co-leads here that are named today that we're also asked to pass, they'll be consulted by staff and, well, whoever the staff representative is in drawing up those terms of reference for that particular committee?
Yeah, to a point, I think there needs to be some consistency across those terms of reference, though. We don't want every portfolio operating slightly differently. So the fundamentals within those terms of reference, I think, need to be agreed as a group, and we can either do that through the chair and deputy chair or collectively. There may be some things that are specific in terms of the matters that are to be dealt with, but I think fundamentally, in terms of the principles as to how portfolios will work and the responsibilities of the leads, there needs to be some consistency around those portfolios. So, yep, there will be some engagement between the relevant GM and the leads, but also we will be trying to bring some consistency.
Okay. Thank you.
We would, Kevin and I would attempt soon to develop, flesh out, and in conjunction with Richard, flesh out those terms of reference and things, and send a more fleshed out draft around councillors, and see if we can try that with a couple of rounds and with input in from councillors and things. And if it turns out that it doesn't look like it's something we can do with the input that people can provide in response to them being sent around and things, then we'll look at what mechanism we need to actually all get together on it.
That much stuff.
amendment proposed or two amendments proposed.
On the screen.
Yes.
Amendments get taken first.
We're just having the,
Just pull out what's there, just so we all know what we're looking at, and then yes, you're right, Richard.
Yeah.
You want to take Alan's amendment first?
Right, thank you. So look, I'm proposing to amend recommendation 4 to say appoints an audit and risk committee with membership of attached with the addition of councillor Robertson as a member. I'm proposing that, moving that.
But that's an amendment.
Yes.
second,
Quick question. So,
councillor Malcolm?
yeah, what now becomes the size of the audit and risk committee?
Right. Take your membership.
Cross Andrew.
So you're increasing the membership.
1, 2, 3,
It's not-
4, 5, 6, 7.
Really? Where's 7?
So Kevin,
Independent chair.
Andrew Douglas,
So you're making,
Hilary, Gary, Chanel, Neil, and Gretchen.
That would be 6. That's 6.
7.
Anyone?
Yeah.
So it's an addition to the list, that's all I'm
Seven.
checking. Yeah. So it's not you want one
Oh, I see.
removed,
Okay.
it's just an addition. No, yeah.
Anyone who's struggling with the accounting can come to audit and risk and I'll be glad to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, and please don't go on to
I'm happy to
finance.
second
No,
it.
wait
I'm
on.
just-
No,
or
no,
can we just
no,
check
no.
that the-
I'm
Second,
right.
councillor Wilson.
I am right, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm right, it is 6.
Oh.
You've counted Andrew Douglas twice. You've got him down as co-chair and then you've got him down as chairperson.
No, the chairperson is Hilary. That's what I was getting confused.
But that will be, chairperson, sorry.
He's been right, now he's right again.
No. Oh dear.
Sorry, councillor Wilson, you had
Sorry,
a,
can we just check that the mover
I hope
and the
that's
seconder
not
aren't
going out
accepting
live,
that as
is
a
it?
motion? And then,
I was just joking. Of course
Front
it
page.
is. Yes, I know.
Councillor Laws. Are you happy to accept that amendment?
6, 7.
Was that a yes?
No, it is a appropriate response to that from just having difficulty with the numbers today, but 6, 7 is also what my children would say.
Are you happy to accept that as an amendment?
Just the amendment to 4 at this stage. That's
I'm
the
happy,
amendment.
but is everybody else happy?
Yeah.
the second.
We only need
We only need you.
the
exactly.
mover and the seconder
I'll
to
tell you
accept
later.
that amendment. Right.
Yep.
Yes,
That's
accepted.
So now there's a second amendment proposed by councillor Wilson.
I'll move, yeah, I'd rather see it higher than 8, but only because I think it fits better as probably 3 or 4, but yeah, I'll move it. Notes that the council will continue to consult with Mana Whenua on a mutually agreeable way to incorporate representation into the new portfolio structure. It's consistent with the discussion at the marae yesterday.
Right, seconder? Councillor Gardner? Councillor Laws, are you prepared to accept that?
No. So that, I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll speak against that.
So you've got. I would hope that we would get a unanimous view. It's consistent with the discussion that went on the table at the marae yesterday. It shouldn't be a difficult one. We have responsibilities under Section 81 of the Local Government Act to have a representation model, and this is it's just continuing the discussion to find out a way of getting that in the new portfolio model and structure. It's nothing different.
Yes.
Any other speakers to this amendment?
Sorry. Are you taking number 8 or taking out of turn, are you?
No,
Process
Yeah.
boss.
Should be seven.
It's putting this on.
Concerned.
it's a new resolution, isn't it, that you're having?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not accepted by one of the mover and seconder. Would have thought it was a separate
Yeah.
That's what I
resolution
thought, yeah.
that goes after this.
No,
Correct.
That's right.
No,
what I
it's
thought.
not.
Normally go
Yep.
first, that's fine.
Vote amendments first.
it's an amendment to the motion. It's not a subsequent motion.
That's right.
It's a new
Yes,
motion.
but if the mover and seconder don't accept
It's still.
We did
Oh,
accept
it's
seven.
it makes it a separate,
Correct.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Right.
So just to clarify, it's not accepted as part of the original moved and
Yes.
seconded motion. Doesn't prevent it from being a
Yes.
subsequent.
Correct.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm just trying to figure out how that, how that.
So I'm just gonna ask Amanda through the mic,
We
just
do.
to provide clarity on that process for the amendment.
Yes, so my understanding is it's been moved as an amendment. The original mover and seconder of the broad group of motions aren't comfortable for it to be included in the broad group, so it needs to be moved and seconded separately, voted on separately, and if it passes, it becomes part of that overall group, and if it fails, it drops away.
So
Yes,
we are in debate around 8 only as to whether or not it is added as an amendment to the substantive motion. And the mover has spoken, we can take other debate and then put that, and we'll know what position we're in with the substantive motion.
Yeah, sorry, I'm thinking that if it isn't moved and seconded as part of this and it turns into a separate thing that which will later be incorporated, you can't agree on that first because it doesn't make any sense until the rest of the motion is moved, does it?
It's incorporated.
Yeah, that's right. Point of order that
Yeah.
it basically relies on the
Yeah.
new structure for it
Yes,
to be a
so I can't
thing.
see how you can
Yeah.
agree to it without
New
the rest of
portfolio
it.
structure.
So don't we want to vote on the rest of it and then we come back to it as a separate?
As a separate recommendation.
So, sorry, it is not a subsequent motion. I've asked to amend. I can come back to the subsequent afterwards. So, yeah, but I'm asking that it be incorporated because I think it's important to have it as part of that understanding of the whole. So I'm asking it to be added in to
If
the,
you remove portfolio, it works in the new structure.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, there are in actual fact 7 motions there, not 1. And so they start with noting this report and they conclude with the 7th, which is noting the appointments. Any council member here could ask each of those to be taken separately rather than together. But they are currently listed as 7 distinct motions. And now we've added an 8th. That's not a problem. So I don't see 1 to 7 as a continuum unless we choose as a group to pass all 1 to 7. But any member here can go, I want to debate, or I want a division on, or on each of those a particular motion. So the normal way that you would chair this is to take them one after the other.
If councillor Laws, you were prepared to accept that amendment,
No, I've said no.
hold on, hold on.
Yeah.
Knowing that and putting them separately, putting that amendment separately, then we can vote on the rest, either together or individually,
yeah.
and then vote on the amendment. So you can say,
That's right.
if you're allowed to be in as an amendment, but you can still vote against it.
But
When it gets to number 8.
I'm struggling here. You've now got 8 motions. What do? You've got 8 motions. It's not one motion with 8 parts.
Can I just suggest you take an adjournment for 5 minutes? We need to sort this out.
Okay, I move that we adjourn for 5 minutes. Seconded, councillor Wilson.
Aye.
On the contrary. Carried. Right, councillors resumed. I understand that the mover and seconder are now comfortable with that being added as an amendment, and that councillor Somerville has got a procedural motion that he wants to put.
Thank you. Is that we take the decision on each of these recommendations separately and call a division for the recommendation 2.
Second.
Seconded councillor Malcolm. All those in favour?
Aye.
On the contrary, carried. No, I'm saying each of them separately.
No, you need to, no, it's just that motion needed to be put now, so that's been done, so we've got the voting.
We're back to normal.
We know what we're going to do, so we've now got a moved and seconded 1
To
to
7.
1 to 8.
8.
Oh, 8, 1 to 8.
We have agreed that 2 will be taken by, they'll all be taken separately and 2 will be taken by division. Sorry, Ellen, I hope I got that right. There still needs to be debate.
And 3 needs to be fixed.
But the
Without changes.
As attached, yeah, so just take it without change. Yeah. Take it out. Now, although you are taking all of these separately, in the interest of time, my recommendation is debate on all of them, noting that they will be taken separately.
Right, debate. Councillor Somerville.
Thank you. I guess most of my discussion, my debate here will be about recommendation 2, though of course it affects all. The portfolio system may be fantastic, but we have not had time to fully understand the implications of it. The committee structure was transparent with co-chairs and a clear governance role. I'm concerned about the muddying the important separation between governance and operations and need more information around that. We received some information about this proposal last week, but the full paper was not received until 5:35 p.m. yesterday. That is not the way to make a fully informed decision about an important change. Perhaps most importantly, we should not remove the long-standing method of mana whenua governance input that was achieved through the committee structure until we work with them to find something to take its place. Council's significance and engagement policy, Hei Mahi Rōrika, says when making decisions, Council needs to be satisfied that the implications of an issue or decision for mana whenua of the region have been fully considered. I don't believe they have, and the Huia or Tako yesterday reinforced that belief. Hei Mahi Rōrika again, the process of engagement is based on continuing to build trusted and enduring relationships which require an ongoing commitment. Advancing this proposal today would jeopardise our good relationship with mana whenua, and we don't need to, because there is a way forward. I would suggest that we follow the former committee structure and appoint the proposed portfolio leads as committee co-chairs while we take the time to make a more informed decision. The proposed portfolio areas matched closely to last triennium's committees. This gives us time to engage properly with mana whenua and come up with a solution that meets the aspiration in our strategic directions that ORC has effective and meaningful partnerships with mana whenua, creating better outcomes for our region. Now, if recommendation 2 fails, I'm happy to move an alternative motion along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, and thanks for all of the questions this morning. They were really helpful, but they illustrated that there were a lot of questions still around the table at this point. And I guess one of them that really came home to me was when Councillor Gillespie was talking about how things operated at previous council that they'd been involved in was that actually the leads there chaired that section of the council. It's quite unclear still exactly how it would work in our council. But it's really important that we do consider how we govern for the next 3 years and that we get it right and that we use our team, because we've got a fantastic team here. When we look around the table, everyone needs to be a leader and everyone needs to be doing that well and with the good heart, the good knowledge that they've got. And we just need to come back to what are good governance principles. And the first one that I think of is transparency. Committees are public. They have public forums. They have agendas, they have minutes, they have decisions on record. They allow for public scrutiny and participation. Portfolios operating, at the moment, we're not too sure because they don't have terms of reference, but they do seem to be a bit more informal. Without public meeting or records of the bulk of what they're doing. Accountability is another key principle. Committees with delegated authority enable clear lines of responsibility. Decisions are traceable and they're collectively owned. Portfolio leads advise, but yeah, that's a little bit murky when staff are also advising and are experts in that area. And it also risks diluting accountability. Efficiency, committees can act without full council involvement. So if you're really looking to be more efficient, you could have committees with less people on it and not have to handle everything through council. Which would be really big. I mean, I think a council meeting could be based on the bulk of work that we do through this council and the amount of time it took to go to present some really big matters through committees. They don't handle minor things. It could take 4 days of council meeting or one person chairing. That would take a really long time and just, I'm not sure if it uses us effectively. Inclusiveness, committees can formally include mana whenua, but also external experts too. Anyone we want that we think will be useful can be involved there. And we have used that more than just mana whenua as well, although that's a really crucial component. And then I guess, yeah, that governance versus management. Committees receive direct technical presentations from staff and there's clarity of roles there. Portfolio leads interpreting that expert advice, risks blurring governance and management roles. So yeah, I just think this is really important. Good governance is built on transparency, accountability, inclusion and clarity of roles. Committees do provide for all of these. They meet in public, their decisions are recorded and their work is visible. They are led by a team of co-chairs. Everyone's involved. Everyone's used, their skills are used. I've heard nothing about an advantage today, to be honest. I have heard that we could have close relationships with staff. We could take communities' views and share them with staff. We could take responsibility for that area. We could do that under both models. So I'm not arguing either that change isn't useful and that we should consider change, but I'm totally with Councillor Somerville and actually some of what Councillor Gillespie said about fundamentally, do we have that information today? I'm going back to what I do know, which is the co-chairs model, because as Councillor Gillespie pointed out, it has structure around it and expectations and transparency. There's no risk of people going off on tangents on their own favourite subject. It's accountable. People can see what we're doing. Yeah, so I think without the structure around the portfolio leads, it's quite risky. It's really important to formally include mana whenua I just think the discussion before about requiring, well, first of all, trying to interpret what's important to mana whenua by doing a dig through everything we've done, and then asking for written responses on matters that are important is not the best way to go forward with a relationship. It assumes, I suppose, what we think might be most important, and actually being together and discussing things is a better way. I think we've had a lot of success with that as well, and a lot actually more transparency, because we're at the table. We can see what people are saying, we can see them recorded live stream, we can see their faces, and we can question them. So that's actually really pretty damn important, and pretty damn important for community too, to see that transparency. So yeah, I don't think we're ready today with a structure without some of that transparency and accountability that the rest of it brings. I'm sort of in a position where I think everything could be handled through council until we have a good discussion with ourselves around how the structure would actually work. So we could do it that way, or we could go to the co-chairs model and the committees, which is the way the council is currently structured. It would be effective, it would be efficient, it would use all our team
It's not
members.
currently structured in any particular way.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean the council staff are structured in those teams around. So that's what I mean by that, the council staff. Thank you. So yeah, that will do from me. Thanks.
Councillor Noon.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I support all the motions up on the screen, but I'll just talk to 2 and 8. In terms of 2, I see that, this is, I agree with what you said during question time, Madam Chair, is that this is a new council. We need to impose our style, our lens, our approach on this new Tri-M, and I've got an open mind around the portfolio regime. We haven't tried it before. I think it has the ability to move from perhaps a more, no offence to anybody who was around the table last term, a more passive approach to a more active approach. I see the advantages working more closely with staff at the GM level, and I know that we all had that opportunity last Tri-M, but I think this gives us a step up and that opportunity to step up. And we often talk about outputs and monitoring and ensuring that we are actually making progress, and often those reports come through on a 3-monthly basis or whatever. I see this portfolio regime the opportunity to have a closer lens across outputs, because I think there are times where simply because our structure has been couched in a way that we elected members aren't fully across some of what's going on a daily, weekly basis or whatever. So I see a really good opportunity to be better informed in terms of how we're progressing on the ground by way of outputs. I think moving on to 8, I think it's critical that we support that motion. I think we need to be respectful and have a level of trust that is important between ourselves and mana whenua. I think we also need meaningful engagement with them. I think that yesterday it was pretty clear the pathway we were planning to go down is quite different than what we had in play last term, and probably the previous term. So I think that, that's really critical. But the terms of reference, I said I was only going to stick to 2 and 8, but number 6, the terms of reference is going to be the key. And I heard from the chief executive that we don't need to have part of the in the motion that we will have a workshop. But I would expect a workshop on such an important document before we get anywhere near the 26th of November. And I heard you, Madam Chair, say, well, we might circulate, or we will circulate a document and then we'll think about having a workshop. I personally want a workshop because I believe that the wording of the terms of reference will provide the guidance around expectations of portfolio leads and their deputies, clear guidance around obviously the iwi interaction, clear guidance around how we work with staff, clear guidance around how we interact in the media, etc. So I would want all that clarified and not having that done through an electronic form just between the 12 of us around the table. So that would be my expectations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Laws.
We had an election less than a month ago, which set a very clear mandate for change around this governance table. There are 5 new councillors that are elected, each bringing particular skill sets that would be the envy, I would suggest to you, of most councils throughout New Zealand. And we also had 3 councillors dumped, rejected by the community, including the deputy chairman of this regional council. There were also clear mandates given to the leading candidates in each of the wards. Myself, yourself, Councillor Kilbert, you, Robbie, and Kevin Malcolm, who had strong policies that went out and clearly received an affirmation from the communities and was represented in the final results. So there can be no question that this is a change council responding to a desire for change, dramatically represented less than a month ago. For that reason, can I say, when we came up, well, the current chair came up along with her deputy with a portfolio mechanism, it wasn't that they decided to reinvent the wheel. It was decided to make this particular organisation more efficient and effective. I shall wait.
Okay, keep going.
Carry on. Carry on.
That will be to do with Councillor Malcolm's family and his family. So the desire for change, to reiterate, was clearly expressed to us. One of the desires for change is for this council to become more active and less passive in the way in which it approaches governance. And the portfolio lead very much lends itself towards that particular model. So for that reason, we have a different model, which requires each of us individually to step up and to play a leadership role around this council table in our community. If I have one criticism of the last council, and I probably have more than one, but if I was to have one criticism of the last council, it would be that we were a relatively passive organisation, very much staff-led in terms of both agenda and of decision-making around this table. The portfolio leads put you in charge and give you the responsibility for leading in that area in concert with staff, which is the way good governance runs. The other thing is we're not reinventing the wheel. This is a common governance mechanism. and administrative style in TAs. And as Mr. Gillespie has just come from Central Otago District Council, they are one of literally dozens of of councils throughout New Zealand who employ the portfolio mechanism. I did in Wanganui 20 years ago. And the difference was remarkable in terms of individual councillors seeing that they had the responsibility to lead in policy, engaging with the communities, bringing those particular items to the table, and then being able to manage the process from the gestation of a particular policy to its ultimate outcome and its implementation. Can I deal first of all, though, with the objections of our two fellow councillors, and particularly Councillor Robertson, who was, as we know, the chair of the last council. Councillor Robertson expressed the view that transparency and accountability will be missing from this particular structure. I could argue it was missing from the last one, but I'm struggling to see how that would occur when all of the council papers that come to the table will be public. The policy-making process will be public. The accountability of all of us will be public. The transparency in policy-making will still be as it's always been. The only difference is that you won't go through a council committee. And those council committees were a chimera. As I've just explained, and the chief executive has confirmed, neither of us can remember any council committee decision that was overturned by council. Council was just a rubber stamp. So then you may as well have the decision-making process at the full council table, and then you only have to do it once. It's almost absurd to think that you would actually pass a recommendation, but you couldn't implement it for 6 weeks because it didn't come to the council table. But that was the process at the last council and the one before that. And finally, on mana whenua, you know my views on this. I don't believe that anybody should be at this table who's not elected. And I don't believe that we should prefer any race or ethnicity at this table, which is what is being proposed by certain councillors around this table. Nothing prevents any ethnicity or race or individual from standing for council, but we have decided that we're not only going to elect 12 members, we're going to adjunct that with people who don't have a democratic mandate to be making policy decisions for all of Otago. That is racist and it is wrong.
Order, Madam Chair.
Councillor Noon.
That's not what 8 says.
No,
No, but sorry, point of order. That's not what that says. Number 8 does not say that we are including unelected members onto some sort of committee structure or portfolio or whatever. Portfolio, to use the right word.
Can I speak to the point of order?
No.
It doesn't say that
there's
it
no
doesn't
right.
either.
No, you
Of course I can speak to the point of
No,
order.
you can't.
Yes, I can.
That's.
Look at your standing orders, for Pete's sake.
She decides.
My ruling about the point of order is that it is well-founded. Can you change your wording a little bit, councillor Laws?
All right. It would be racist and wrong to have anybody sitting at this table on making policy who had not been elected, but who had been chosen from the basis of their ethnicity or of their culture. And number 8 does not rule out, if you read it properly, does not rule out that representation around this table is a future option. In fact, it says incorporate representation into the new portfolio structure. I am clearly indicating that that should not include sitting around this table at council decisions as a matter of right, having an input into council decision making. The best way I have to say going forward to deal with mana whenua, as we are required to do, is in actual fact to observe also the Local Government Act. I'm sick and tired of how this council has broken the law for the last 2 terms. You are required under the Local Government Act, and I'm sick and tired of it being misinterpreted, I might add, last week in the briefing that you got to do with the alleged partnership that this council has with Mana Whenua. The Local Government Act says Maori, it doesn't say Mana Whenua. There are certain parts of the Conservation Act, I think, and the Resource Management Act that do, but we have a responsibility for all Maori, not just some. And that is in the Local Government Act, and it's been routinely ignored by this council for as long as I've been elected here, and I keep on bringing it up, and I will continue to do so. Why you should only allow certain Maori particular privileges under 8 is beyond me, when we have a responsibility under the Local Government Act to improve and increase the participation of all Maori, not Mana Whenua, Maori, into our decision-making process in this council. Ignore it all the time. I will vote for all first 7. I will not be voting for motion 8.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Kelleher.
Thank you very much. I really like the proposed portfolio structure. I'm very keen to see how the terms of reference will evolve. I think we have to get past this step to then put in place the meaningful terms of reference that will apply for the next triennium. I'm excited about where that could go. I felt that the structure we had previously of 2 tiers of very formal meetings was clunky. It was time consuming. It was must have been incredibly time consuming for staff to be formulating agendas that often were 1,000 pages to get to the initial committee structure before we then move to ratify council. I think we will be far more efficient. We'll be more efficient for us. We'll be more efficient for the staff. We'll be more efficient for the community in a single council meeting type structure with portfolios and responsibilities sitting with those portfolios. So I'll certainly be supporting that. When it comes to motion 8, I won't be supporting that. I think that the wording of incorporate representation into the structure is too strong. I think we will create far more meaningful engagement with Mana Whenua or Māori under what we are proposing, but we will evolve that with our portfolio, and that motion as it stands meddles with what we might get to. So I won't be supporting. Thank you.
Any further speakers? Would you like a right of reply? Oh, sorry. Councillor Gillespie.
Thank you. I'm probably the converted because of my previous experience, but my concern would be is that what I've seen in a previous organisation and how that applies to the one I'm currently in doesn't necessarily follow. I'm firmly of the view that there is a lot of uncertainty around this table about just what the detail will look like. And I think that's the bit that's potentially missing. The question then is that enough to pause, or does what's been proposed and what's been moved and seconded will get us to the right place? And in particular, the work to be done as part of number 6, is it? Sorry, I saw it's not too good. Number 6, and then with the follow-up of the proposed number 8. And I believe it will, but I can also appreciate that for some of the members of this table that might be saying, trust me, is a bridge too far. So yeah, I think it is the right thing to proceed with at this stage, and I believe that we will get to the right place. And I think that I refer members, if they get a chance, which I might help, is looking at in particular the delegation from CIDC and how that portfolio structure is set up, might provide some further insights and could provide some further, comfort with where we might end up. As for recommendation number 8, my take on my limited time in this organisation and what I've learned with what's in there, both the strategic directions for 24-34, the long-term plan for 24-34, to have anything other than that would mean we are not following what this council has already agreed to, and is the process we're taking to go forward. So on that basis, I would struggle not to support number 8. Where it ends up is another matter. So, yeah, that's the views that I would have on where we're going to go forward.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As a new councillor coming on, I saw the adjustment from a committee structure to a portfolio structure as mainly an improvement in operations to align our processes and governance more closely with that of operations. It was explained to me, and I understood that quite simply, as improving our governance responsibilities by improving transparency and accountability, if simply from a carrying over of spreadsheets. That made sense to me from a very high level view. I take on board Councillor Laws's comment about number 8 in terms of the differentiation between mana whenua and Māori. And I agree with Councillor Gillespie that I think that that situation is an evolving one. When I seconded that motion, for me, what I recognised in the marae yesterday and for the hui was an authentic desire to continue the relationship, especially with mana whenua. Coming into the organisation, I think everyone here should be proud of how interwoven the cloak of the ORC is interwoven so heavily with our relationship with mana whenua that I don't believe that that can be diminished nor extinguished whatsoever by the high level changes of structure that are proposed with this portfolio system. I don't see, I have seen no disingenuous attempts from my learned friends to erode or misplace. As I see it, it has been a simple step to improve some systems and outcomes and outputs for all our communities. So my hope would be that we can view a shift to portfolios really positively. I do acknowledge that there are some concerns about details. For me, the differences aren't so marked. I have seen it clearly a little bit more simply than some of my friends. I do think that the intention is there and that any concern about a reduction in the relationship, I definitely do not see that as being at risk from a structural change from the portfolios to a portfolio system.
I'm happy with 1 to 7. I think I agree with Councillor Kelleher regarding point 8. Okay, Councillor Wilson brought up the Local Government Act, Section 81, which I believe says nothing about mana whenua or representation. I consider it to be undemocratic. It was something I brought up on the campaign, and most people didn't know there was unelected representation and were aghast when they found out about it. We talk about accountability. I don't see how there can be accountability for unelected people. That's all.
No.
Final reply, Councillor Laws.
No, I've listened to the debate around us. I only would like to reiterate that this should streamline our organisation. It should make us much more active. It should also, I think, give us much more leadership from individuals around the table, and they should feel engaged in taking responsibility for their portfolios. It should also lead to, you're hearing this from me, an enhanced relationship between elected councillors and the staff members themselves, in the sense that they have to work together to produce the work that comes to this table. I can only see that as a good thing. And at any time in the future, we can review whether the system is working or not. But manifestly, the last system was, as a number of people have noted, cumbersome and convoluted. And this, hopefully, will make a more efficient and effective way of making policy, of implementing it, of monitoring what council does, and of meeting the needs of our community.
Thank you. I am excited by this portfolio model proposal. I think it will help us be the best regional council in New Zealand. I would like to thank Councillor Wilson for bringing 8 to our attention and producing a reminder to all of us that we do have a special relationship with Mana Whenua, and we do need to honour that in some way. That doesn't, to me, require a particular way of respecting a relationship, but I do seriously thank Councillor Wilson for bringing that. I also would like to thank Councillors Somerville and Robertson for freely expressing their concerns about the model that was being proposed so that we could fully canvass them around this table. We only make good decisions if we can reflect on the information available, and to have 2 people from a previous triennium help us understand whether there are fishhooks that would lead us to not make this choice is really helpful around the table. I think it's great. I will be voting for it. I like it. Okay. We'll be putting them one at a time in order, but number 2 by division. So,
Can I just check? The obvious question, by division means what?
means that each of us
Votes.
Votes.
Individually votes.
So we go around the
They
room
call it out.
and we ask each,
And number 8 by division.
And number 8.
and number 8 by division.
It's very slow.
And thank you for asking the question. If you don't understand, it's really important.
I'd like to say that I knew, but I thought others who might be listening didn't.
Robbie's really glad you did that as number 8.
I know.
Right. Putting number 1, notes this report.
Aye.
All those against? Number 2, adopts the proposed governance model of portfolio areas to complement council decision making as attached without changes. Yes, by division.
Councillor Byers,
Yes.
Councillor Gardner,
Yes.
Councillor Hollier,
Yes.
Councillor Calvert,
Yes.
What do you, Neil?
Councillor Callagher.
Me, yes.
Yes, sorry, it's out of order. Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
Councillor Laws,
Yes.
Councillor Noon,
Yes.
Councillor Robertson,
No.
Councillor Somerville,
No.
Councillor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion has passed. 9 in favour and 2 against.
Number 3, approves the appointment of portfolio leads as attached without changes. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Carried. Number 4, appoints an audit and risk committee with membership as attached with the addition of Councillor Robertson as a member. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Number 5, agrees to appoint Mr Andrew Douglas to a further 1-year term as co-chair of the Audit and Risk Committee based on a recommendation of the previous Audit and Risk Committee to provide continuity with the committee's work plan All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Number 6, notes that more detailed terms of reference for each portfolio area, the role of portfolio leads and the council calendar for 2026 will be brought to council for consideration and adoption on 26th of November 2025. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Number 7, notes that a further list of council appointments to joint committees, external and internal working groups will be presented for consideration to council on the 26th November 2025. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Carried. And finally, number 8, and we will take this by division too. Notes that the council, I can't read.
Notes that the council will continue to consult with mana whenua on a mutually agreeable way to incorporate representation into the new portfolio structure.
Councillor Byers,
Against.
Councillor Gardner, Councillor Hollier,
I agree.
Councillor Calvert,
For.
Councillor Callagher,
No.
Councillor Gillespie,
Yes.
Councillor Laws,
Opposed?
Councillor Noon,
Aye.
Councillor Robertson,
Aye.
Councillor Somerville,
Yes.
Councillor Wilson.
Aye.
Motion has passed. It's 8 in favour and 3 against.
If we could have a 10-minute adjournment.
If you need.
Moved. Seconded, councillor Wilson. All those in favour?
Aye.
It'd be huge, wouldn't it?
Council meeting recommencing. We are moving now to 6.2 on our agenda. To consider the allocation of the remuneration pool for councillors. The remuneration authority determines the size of the pool and then sends it off to us for what I think is a recommendation back to them. Is it?
Yeah.
Right, good idea. Thank you, staff. If you could tell us about this, that would be lovely.
Thanks, Chair. Just briefly, as you said, the Remuneration Authority sets the salary pool for elected members. This is they do it annually, so each year in July you'll receive a paper which is looking for your guidance on how to split up that remuneration pool. The chair's salary is determined by the Remuneration Authority. This year there was a July determination and then there was a post-elections determination. So we have brought this to you for you to consider the way it is allocated. The second part of the paper is an update to the expenses and allowance policy. So again, we bring this to council annually as it's updated annually by the Remuneration Authority. There was some specific detail required around the home security allowance that has been added in yellow in the updated policy for your consideration as well.
Happy to move. Without changes. Oh, sorry, it's with changes.
So move, you're moving
Sorry, yeah.
the
The sixth adopts the updated allowances and expenses policy full stop.
right. Have we a seconder?
Maybe a second.
Councillor Loon, seconder. Have we further questions? Further discussion? Debate, discussion, debate. Councillor Laws.
I'd just like to raise the issue is that we haven't actually determined the responsibilities yet of the leads and the deputy leads or of the what are they called? Not the special interest people, the special rapporteurs or whatever we're going to do in Cromwell. What's the special name for them? Gary, you're in charge of pests. It's your special something.
Special interest.
Special interest, that's right, yeah.
Secrets.
So what I was thinking is, could we review this in 12 months' time? I'm worried that some of the work burden of this council may fall unequally on council laws. And I'm just saying, I'm happy to go with general principle, but I do think that if certain councillors in the next 12 months are given a greater work burden, that frankly should be recognised in the way in which we pay them. Most other councils, to give another illustration of this, do make a differentiation in their salaries for those who are portfolio leads or chairpersons, or who have additional responsibilities because they work harder. So I'm just as an indication suggesting.
So we can answer the question about the process available.
Yes, you can absolutely review it at any point, and then we will bring it in 12 months' time again for formal review because the new determination will come out from the Rem Authority.
All right, okay. So that would seem to answer my question.
It's just from my point of view, I'm proposing the portfolios and things is that if anyone looks like they're not doing their share because they haven't been allocated their share, and it comes to my attention, that will be addressed.
Sorry, just clarification. I just heard the terms lead and deputy lead. I don't think we have deputy leads, do we?
So the structure you just approved didn't.
Thank you.
To provide that clarification and then obviously the clarification from Amanda around the processes. Yeah.
Thank you. And hence why I moved.
Any further debate? If you don't want to say anything, councillor Laws, could you turn your microphone on? Right. Let's move the recommendations 1 through 6. I presume, councillor Wilson, you meant without change, you
It's
said without
a
changes?
full stop
Yeah.
after policy.
Right. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Moving on to item 6.3. Would you like to speak briefly to this, Richard?
Yeah, firstly, thanks, Chair. So first, just acknowledging that there was an error in the draft letter, and the intention was we got our ministers and roles mixed up. There should also the Honourable Mark Patterson, actually Minister for Rural Communities, and it's Minister Mark Mitchell, who is Minister for Emergency Management. So the updated letter will go to both Marks, who will have an interest in this matter, as well as to the Minister for Media and Communications. So this came out of a request from councillors following the recent weather event, where this issue was felt by large parts of our community. The letter is there for consideration and amending as appropriate, and we'll take the direction of the council table.
I would like to move from the chair that we approve the draft letter subject to any minor edits as is described there. So I second.
Sorry, I just have a editing. What, second to last paragraph, second sentence starting, we are aware. Can we change it to we acknowledge?
Certainly can. That looks like a minor edit to me.
I have a question beforehand.
Certainly, councillor Somerville.
Thank you. I wonder if you could tell me, was advice sought or received from our CDM staff in the preparation of this letter, so to have a lot of knowledge over these things?
Yes, so we did liaise with them, and obviously they were still relatively busy, but were across this issue and could provide some advice.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Hare.
Is there any value in CCing other district councils that are in the region, so they're aware of what's going on? I don't know if it needs to be formally noted or anyway, but Clutha and through Shepparton Southland as well.
You're thinking just territorial ones or including
Ekin?
Yeah. I mean, regional councils and TAs as well, I would have thought, just to they might want to join on the same sort of time.
Yes.
Certainly, can we do that?
Oh, we can share, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we haven't, just because of the timing and the stage that all the councils are in at the moment with various inductions, we haven't had the chance to connect with them directly on the issue, but I'm sure it's very relevant for a number of them, particularly in Southland. So we can share from the chair once the letter goes to all of the chairs and mayors and CEs within that Canterbury, Otago, Southland region.
No further debate?
Debate I do.
Councillor Kelleher.
So we're in debate. Yeah, awesome. Okay, thank you.
If there's no further questions.
Very happy to support this letter. I think it is very timely. It is when we get these events, and they are a massive issue and burden to the community, and we've become very reliant on telecommunications, and it is the difference between life and death in many situations, and so we don't realise how much you rely on telecommunications until you suddenly don't have them, and then how isolated areas can become. So I think it is very appropriate for us to be highlighting this with the direct sort of access to the ministers. Also very pleased that the point regarding local radio has been picked up and included. Local radio has diminished substantially over the past few decades, and those that are still hanging on to frequencies and struggling away do so on their own bat. But they become very much needed when these sorts of events appear, and so totally forgotten about, largely possibly even not supported at times when these events aren't happening, and then suddenly fallen back on and desperately needed when they do. So pleased that that's highlighted there, and certainly support that. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you to the staff for preparing the set. I am fully supportive. I think the opportunity has to be realised that the government has indicated they may sell off Chorus, which or their debt, which is the important arm of funding the cell tower rollout and communications. And if they get rid of that, then they lose that potential to do this. And so the staff have picked up that they may need incentives or and the assistance to do a rollout with us or the communication companies. I reiterate the issue of the radio, because that is something that you can get on a car radio without power and without cell phone or internet access. It is lovely that we have to get back to the old times to do those things, and it is one thing that most people still have a car with a radio. So they're both important things, and it seems absolutely ironic that this capacity and resilience hasn't been built in to the systems already. It's going to take some time to roll it out, and we have to be quite clear that we may need to be working with CEDA may need to work with the government to roll out the main ones that we need to have updated as quickly as possible, and roll out the other ones at a slower pace. But thank you.
Councillor Gillespie.
Yeah, I think this is the future and what we can expect to happen as our weather patterns and other events hit. This is going to be essential going forward. I suspect also that there's going to be probably some other related issues that will come out of any debrief out of the work done by particularly the emergency management team and others as we work through. That this will probably be the start, I suspect, of more to come in other areas about resilience going forward. And the message really should be is to hopefully to our communities are saying you've got a responsibility yourself first too, about how you're going to look after this sort of stuff, and you need to be better prepared in some areas than what you are, or at least now be informed about what areas might impact on you, and quite significantly.
No further debate. I'll put the motion that we approve the draft to the Minister for Media and Communications, highlighting the urgent need to improve the resilience of mobile communications infrastructure, subject to any minor edits, including. I was just going to include the word. Yeah.
We acknowledge.
Including the words we acknowledge in place of the words are aware of. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. There are no further notices of motion. The meeting is now closed. Thank you, councillors.